There's nothing you can do to a woman, bro. Like, if she wants to give birth, she can give birth. Even when you want her to give birth and she wants abortion, she does that.
Nkululeko on Cultr.
And I know nobody gives a fuck what I think anyway. I'm not for abortion. Oh, shut up, nigga. I'm not for it, but I'm not against it either. It all depends on who I get pregnant. I don't care. I'll tell you right now, I don't care what your religious beliefs are or anything. If you have a dick, you need to shut the fuck up on this one. Seriously. This is theirs. The right to choose is their unequivocal right. Not only do I believe they have the right to choose, I believe that they shouldn't have to consult anybody except for a physician about how they exercise that right. Gentlemen, that is fair. And ladies, to be fair to us, I also believe if you decide to have the baby, a man should not have to pay. That's fair. If you can kill this motherfucker, I can at least abandon him.
There you go. Grand opening. Yeah. Masien Buffett. Tholo is here off the mic. He's off the camera. On the microphone, off the camera. And Nhlanhla, myself, Nkululeko as well. What do you guys think about that? Dave Chappelle. I can't remember the name of the special, but I watched it at the time that it dropped. Very provocative. A topic that women really find uncomfortable to grapple around as a concept. What do you guys think about it?
It's insensitive, obviously, because it's Dave Chappelle, but he's raising valid points as far as double standards are concerned, because what we decide as women, when we decide, right, at times we'll have a conversation to say, no, I don't want to, I want the baby. And you're like, listen, I can't afford the baby. And you give me all the reasons. But I'm like, yeah, no, because of my religious beliefs and all of those things, I need to keep the baby. And rightfully he says, I don't want to be involved. Because now, if you did not want the baby, you wouldn't want you wouldn't want a decision from me. You're going to do it without me anyway. So it's just a matter of, like, have sex responsibly, basically.
Tholo?
That's what he's saying.
Have sex responsibly.
Yeah, have responsible sex.
What does that mean?
It means if you are going to engage in a sexual intercourse and there are repercussions, you all must know that this or that will either happen, and whatever that happens, you must both be okay with it.
And the reason I'm asking that is because many a times women have found themselves in situations where the guy promises them heaven and earth to an extent that they'll promise them marriage and that they will get into a space where they become their wives. And I think that's when then other women will be comfortable to even let themselves fall pregnant, because thinking that, you know, things are going in this direction, right? So when a guy then comes back and say, yeah, but I can't have a baby now, you know, then it's a matter of what should I do with this child, right? So I think, yes, at the end of the day, a woman has to make that decision. But at the same time, I feel that to a certain extent, you have to let the guy know what the decision you've made. As much, not that you'd be asking for permission to do it.
If the guy said, I don't want this child, and at some point, like as a woman, you're seeing that, like, odds are against me, I can't keep this baby.
Yeah.
Do you still go back to the same guy and say to him, by the way, I'm going to do what you did not want, what you wanted me to do?
Let him know.
Why?
Because then he cannot come back years later and want to hold you accountable
but he's
for a
already
decision
like
that you
put
made.
his stance out there to say, give me back.
So this is a concept called financial abortion. People are talking about it more now. So here's the thing. When a woman is 2 weeks pregnant or 7 days pregnant, she can make the decision to keep the baby or abort. She can qualify for abortion maybe up to 4, 5, 6 months, and up depending on which country they're in, right? Or she can go on with the birth. So those two decisions are usually an independent decision by the woman. You can persuade, you can talk, but it's her final decision, right? So the concept of financial abortion is a provocation, but it's a concept that if you have the right to keep or not keep this child, men should have the right to say, I don't want to be part of this, even if you decide to keep him. Now, here are the technicalities to this, because this is not really a debate if men are not consequenced. So when a man says, in the event that a man says, I don't want this child, abort him, right, or her, but the woman goes on with the pregnancy and they give birth to a healthy baby, the man is still consequenced legally. They can have their salaries garnished if they're not paying child support. Now, the concept of financial abortion is being pushed by men's groups. Uguti, look, at a point where you tell me that you're pregnant, whether it's 3 weeks or I can literally sign a document to say, I do not want to partake in this. I do not want this child. I am not ready. You can name him whatever you want. You can link him with whoever you want. Don't put my name on the birth certificate. Never chase me for child support, because the child support will last me for 18 years and it's going to cost me hundreds of thousands. I am not ready for that commitment. So it's a provocation, and women are agitated by that. But women must realize as well, look, you have two decisions to make, and all of them are literally yours. I can persuade, I can talk to you, but I can't do anything. Like, there's nothing I can do to make sure that the baby is not brought to earth if I don't want the child. So it's an interesting concept. I don't think that global governments all over the world are going to change anything about the current laws that exist now. But men are starting to try and push for that to be legislated. Look, don't chase me for child support. I told you I don't want this baby. You continued with the birth. But whereas you have the option for abortion. So that's like the point of conversation. At an intellectual level, when we engage on it, we're talking about those two options and the consequences for both. But okay, you are choosing to be a single mother. You see what I'm saying, I don't want to participate, then that's your decision. I don't know what people think at home on the comment section. Whatever you guys think, please let us know as well about this concept. I know, like in South Africa, it probably wouldn't happen, and I'm sure that feminists wouldn't agree with it. But the unfairness of it is that it's one-sided, the woman. So when we engage in sexual intercourse, it's the both of us. We can contracept, we can use condoms, whatever. It's the both of us. At a point where we were trying to get pregnant, but somehow it happens, the man must have the right to say, I'm not going to participate. I'm signing a consent form to say legally I'm not attached to this kid. Even if through DNA he's mine, he is not mine, I'm sure.
And
now,
traditionally?
I don't know. He's saying he's not participating. So that
no, because I'm saying there's a religious side of things, but I'm speaking from another side where there's tradition concerned, where she decides to keep the baby, and then we have
but if she decides, it means she'll have to be able to manage all of that, because
it becomes a problem.
If Nkululeko says, Nhlanhla, I don't want this child, and gives you his reasons, whether valid or not, the fact is he's saying, I don't want this child, right? And you decide to keep the child. So once you make that decision, you have to think about the consequences of that in terms of, financial issues, emotional issues, and everything else. Because now it basically means you're going to be a single parent. What does that mean to you? Are you going to be able to manage that? And part of that is thinking about such things. If kunamasiko ayenziwa kubo, are you going to be able to manage that?
Because in many ways, the man is saying, I'm cutting off.
Exactly.
So that's not even an option. But then people live. I mean, there's so many single mothers in the world. People live without knowing their father's side. Maybe the father died. They never really got an opportunity to introduce to the family and stuff like that. So it's like, that's a question to be asked. But you must know as a woman, Nguti, what does that mean when he comes to you with a paper? If we were living in that world. If we were living in that world, because we're not living in that world, with a paper that says, I'm cutting ties with you. But it's an interesting one, but I don't think that women would easily embrace that, because there is an incentive for you to be married. That's why people, I remember when Drake had the story of a condom that is he puts spice on his semen or whatever, so that if the woman tries to place so you have sexual intercourse, and then some woman try to steal the condom, because there's an incentive to get pregnant by Drake or whoever is a high-profile person, right? You know that if it can be proven, so the first thing you're gonna do, number one, you are fucked up in that you stole his semen through the condom. Secondly, you are gonna use legislation, the legal route to force him. Number one, because if you are accused of indaba yomdana, they have to go to court to prove first, are you the father? If the DNA matches, whatever the man says, whether he says, I don't want to participate, it was a condom on the side, if the DNA is matching, then you are then, unfortunately, you are then liable to pay for child support. And that child support is not 3,000 rands. The child support is a percentage of your total income. So it could be 30,000. And the woman could come with an expert that says, we're going to take them to Cultr primary school, which is 80,000 rands. There's going to be piano lessons. There's going to be this. There's going to be swimming. She prompts up that price such that it becomes maybe 200,000 or 50,000 or 100,000. Now, that's a new expense that you didn't account for. You had sex safely, but a woman manipulated you into having a baby because they stole your condom. You know, so that's one of the problems.
So, emanating from that, my thoughts, following what you're saying, for me, then it makes sense when a guy would actually sign to say, I don't want to be part of the child's life because you taking that decision. Because obviously there are conversations that happened, right? So, because we've had instances where women would actually intentionally fall pregnant for reasons like to want to keep the guy.
Yeah.
And if the guy is not emotionally and financially ready to have to start a family, like having children or getting married and all of that, it's unfair that now they have to be cornered in because now the pregnancy is there. So it would make sense if a person says, okay, if you're taking that decision, then I'm distancing myself from it. And because also, I mean, you have like 12 weeks before, according to South African law, you have 12 weeks to actually do it.
12 weeks is what, 3 months?
It's 3 months.
3 months.
Beyond that, it should be in instances like where perhaps mentally you're not okay, or the baby has serious
medical
issues.
condition.
Okay.
That's when then you can do it. But I believe that in 12 weeks you have enough time, the back and forth that will be happening.
But sometimes you don't know within the 12 weeks.
You don't?
You don't.
Yeah,
you
you
don't
only
know
know in week
if
4
you're
or
pregnant
something.
or anything like
That's
that.
true.
So
But I mean, you might not know in the 4 weeks, in the 8 weeks.
you might not know in 12 weeks as well, because now remember imzimba yethu, right? Our bodies as women, like they react differently, and every pregnancy is always going to be different. So maybe for the first time or this particular pregnancy, you have no clue that you are pregnant, and then what happens is you go to the doctor because you've got this cough that is not going to go away, and then doctor says, congratulations, you're going to be a mom. And when you ask how far along am I, they say no, you are 15 weeks. There's nothing
But
you
how
can do
common
in
is
15
that?
weeks.
Yeah,
it
that's a
happens.
statistical unknown.
No, but it happens.
Because
out of every 100 pregnancies, we could say maybe 10 are like that, or 20 are like that.
Yeah.
It's not every pregnancy, because you will see signs. Women notice when they are pregnant. We can account for it being at least 10 or 20%, which means statistically it's not everyone who goes through it, because I mean there's your menstrual cycle as well.
But then if you still have
within
it,
4
like I'm
weeks.
saying, pregnancy is different.
Yeah.
Pregnancies differ, and we can't say, oh, this case is 10%. What if this particular case is that 10% that we're talking
I'm
about?
saying like
Then
so if it's something that's affecting the whole country and we are making a decision based on that, when we're legislating, we legislate for the majority of times that something happens. It can happen to you even 3 pregnancies in a row that you don't notice anything, but you belong in that minority of a statistic.
But you see, I have a problem with that legislations are put based on majority.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because you then have minorities which also have to be covered, right?
Yeah.
As queer people, you have trans women and trans men, right? For a trans man, obviously they're transitioning from a woman to being a man, right? They get corrective rape, for example, they fall pregnant. It doesn't say anywhere in the law that covers abortion and the conditions and everything. It doesn't say anything about them, right? Obviously, because of the constitution, because it's the highest law in the country, they can be covered in terms of human rights and all of that. But my issue is when you legislate, as much as you can base it on the majority of
Yeah.
people have clauses that cover the minority
Yeah, you can-
as
you
well.
can-
because then you have instances like Nhlanhla says where you
Yeah.
have, the
You
example
can
of
think of
10%.
exceptions, but by and large, everything we do in the world is based on how many times does this scenario brings itself up, and is it consistent? You see, in this case, we're discussing, and I empathize with what you're saying as well, which are smaller cases. Like I've been saying, and I keep on talking about it in newspapers and everywhere, that my mother was raped and she had me, right? I was the product of that. But that is a minority of conceptions. Like maybe out of 100 children that are born, only 5 are raped, right? You obviously, the person can be consequenced. You go and report, they get arrested and stuff like that. But as it relates to the topic that we're currently talking about now, we're talking about men being given an opportunity to say, because you can abort or give birth, and it's always your choice and no one can force you otherwise, I would like to have an opportunity to say, I'm opting out of this. Now, it's not all men who are going to do that. I would never do that shit. Like, I would have 15 kids living here if I have to. I will never abandon a single of them. But I completely sympathize with the idea that instead of being consequenced for 18 years over something that you had no part in, like you tried to persuade, but there's nothing you can do to a woman, bro. Like, if she wants to give birth, she can give birth. Even when you want her to give birth and she wants abortion, she does that. And I've been in situations like that in casual relationships where it's like, okay, cool, like don't abort, but she does that because she's looking at her options. She's still young, she's good looking, and whatever the case is, she just wants to enjoy her 20s. And I'm like, nah, I'm cool, man. I work. I would like a second or third or fourth child. I still have one, but I've been in those kind of situations. There's nothing you can do to that person because they are exercising their choice and their right, and they abort. And sometimes they come with the story of miscarriage, but then you find out later
That
which
was
they
an
aborted.
abortion.
You know what I'm saying? So it's always a lose-lose for us men, But at the same time, as we're talking about this, I'm not advocating for men to abandon responsibilities.
Regardless of how the child was born.
Yes, I'm not advocating for men to not take responsibility. You have to, but
Because
that's
also the reality is you can sign and say, I don't want to be the part of the child's life. They grow up, they want to know who their father is. And as a mother, obviously you have taken that decision that I'm going to be a single parent. But you get to a point where now your back is against the wall and the child sits you down and say, who's my father? Because I cannot just jump from the tree. And you tell them who their father is, but now you also have to tell them that he actually doesn't want anything
Then
to do with
you pull out that particular
yes.
document.
You pull
And
it out.
Here's the thing.
But-
that is the point where the man now is exercising his right. You see, that's where the right is activated. Look, he had a choice. You sit down and say, we spoke about this, either abort or give birth. He said he doesn't want to be part of it. He signed. And you see it in Nkumbule Kaya, where she brings herself. At Nkumbule Kaya, she goes 2,000 kilometers to another province because she or he has a fairy tale idea of, this nigga, if we see each other, we'll bond or whatever. No, that motherfucker sees you, say, oh, okay. 1987. Oh, cool, nice. Wow, whatever, go then. You see, like some people are like that. Like he's exercising the right to reject. No one has the right to be loved or not be loved. Someone can reject you or love you. It can go either way. The person individually is exercising that option at that moment to go to, I don't want this responsibility. And they are lucky, actually, that person, if the child comes when they are 25, they're no longer a child. They never paid child support. In other countries, that arrears accumulates, actually. If you go to court, and maybe even here in South Africa, it's just that maybe black women don't really exercise that as much as white women or educated women. You can actually have an arrears and owe $500,000 in child support if with interest, depending on the amount that was granted from the beginning. They saw the payslips, Zagatimer, they say, no, he can afford at least 30,000. From the $500,000 that he makes, we can charge him 30,000 for the child because he makes additional $500,000. Yeah, well, so by the time you're 25, he owes your mother plus you maybe $500,000 because he wasn't paying. But it still has the right to exercise not to accept you. Yeah, but some people will come up with excuses. You would know your mother was fucking around. And maybe it was legitimate. Like, he saw the mother fucking around. Yeah, but that still doesn't exonerate for the DNA connection between you and him. He's still your father. But it decided no, your mother was fucking around. I'm rejecting it. But it's an interesting topic, though. I'm not saying, I'm not saying men must not feed their kids. I grew up with a father, and I know how difficult it is. But the double
I think
standards.
also what makes it complex is it depends on the circumstances at the time. the kind of relationship you have as the parents to be. Also, mainly the kind of relationship you have, because if you have not spoken about making a child, and here the child comes, and probably this other one has 2 other girlfriends, or
Exactly, yeah.
where now you have other boyfriends on the side. It's more of, I can't keep this child because now there are others. I mean, now we're in a phase, or not even a phase, in a times where people have Minister of Finance, Minister of Transport, Minister of whatever,
Spreadsheet.
right? So
Yeah.
now if Minister of Transport shoots the goal, and now Minister of Education is going to be, what's going on? You get what I mean?
And then you decide,
So-
I can't keep this
I
child.
can't keep this
because I
child.
need to keep my spreadsheet active.
And the Minister of Finance wants the child. Then what happens? So it also,
you throw the
would
ball.
differ the-
Motshwarisa bike. I'm kidding.
Okay, before we move on,
Yeah.
what do we think? What's the verdict though? Financial abortion. You endorse it? You don't endorse it? You sympathize with it?
Sure. Do I endorse it? I don't endorse it. I don't.
You still want that man to pay for 18 years,
Yes.
even
No.
though he said, "I don't want that child."
No, look.
He told you Nhlanhla and phone him then.
Yeah, and then I must say, okay, no, it's fine. I'm going to be a single parent. Ne? Now here's a challenge in Nkululeko, and I've seen this happen all
Yeah.
the time. Ne? He says, I don't want this child, right? And I'm 3 months pregnant. 6 months into the pregnancy, I meet some guy pregnant, and then I tell him, no, like obviously you can see that I'm pregnant,
Yeah.
right? And this guy says, no, Bona, Kishab, where's the baby daddy?
He's a bitch nigga.
And then baby daddy is nowhere. And it'll be like, are you sure? And it's like, yes. He doesn't want to be part of the child's life. And then this guy says, listen, I'm ready. I want to be the father of this
Yes.
child. And I'll do everything from today onwards, including changing your surname as well as this child that's going to be coming into this world. Kiamunga. Yeah, so you take everything, and then this child now grows. You said you don't want to be the part of the child's life, right? 21 years, the child is now 21. He's a doctor, he's working, he's fine. He's known us as the parents, right? Now you want to come back.
That's why you
21
need, that's
years
why you need
later.
that document.
21
So that it
years
legally
later,
binds
and then
him.
you want to come and say, hey, Ekes Joe Pasan, you know?
That's why you need
And-
that document. I sign. It legally binds
Yeah.
him. It becomes an automatic restraining order.
Yeah.
Don't get anywhere within a kilometer. Or even 100. I think the
500
restraining order is
meters.
100 meters or something
Yeah,
like that.
100 meters.
Don't come anywhere near that. That's why he needs that. So you are literally advocating for a financial abortion
Yes.
in the story that you are talking about.
But then it works for both parents. What about the child? Because in so many instances, what I have seen is that when children grow up, they want to have a relationship with either their mother or their father who has not been in their lives, and they're even likely to go behind your back to go search
and
for
check,
their
yeah.
parent.
Only if they find out that this is not their real parent. But if they grow up,
Yes,
and then we
yes.
all look, because most of the time, all these things come out when there's a family function,
Eish.
and you and so are no longer in
That
speaking terms.
rachadi.
That rachadi will then want to spill the beans. But if everybody's on board and this child grows up and everybody knows that no, they grew up because Ntate's mamang decided to marry this mother, and then they grew up like that, kids don't have an issue. The only issue becomes the moment they know that actually this guy is not your biological father. And then they have that urge to say, okay, maybe I would have been better in my life, and only to find out that your real father is actually somewhere. He's a trolleypreneur. He works in the streets, and that's what he does. We could not give you the life that this man has given you. What do? Do you still want to take him in and say, okay, fine, he's still my father? But all these things, they come out, and they happen, psychologically affect the children once they've been told that this is not your father or this is not your mother. But then if kids don't know any of those things, life carries on as normal. I've seen it happen.
Yeah. And also, if the concern is about single parenthood and whatnot, in the event of financial abortion, it will still be a child being raised by one person. Currently, there's a pandemic of single mothers. It's still the same thing. So whether men sign or not sign,
not.
they still
Injalo.
walk away.
Yeah. Because it takes a village. You don't necessarily raise a child alone. So,
Yeah, you give them a best chance though, statistically, when there's the mother and the father. That's something that works with me. It's like, if I have 10 kids, they will live with me, all of them. If I can find my way to live with all of them, because it's the best possible chance. I know, I'm the parent that earns. So
you wouldn't do it like Penwell is doing?
you see, that is purposefully trying to make children, too many children. Like, he's purposefully wanting to do that. Mina, if I find myself just being reckless, which I'm trying to not do that, but for some reason, if in a hypothetical situation, it's been 10 years now since I have my child, she's 10, so I still have one. So chances are by the time I'm 40, I'm 32 now, by the time I'm 40, I'll probably have two more, and that will be the end. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying in the event, hypothetically, that I have a lot of kids, I would live with them because I'm the parent that earns. I can afford a nanny and whatever. I can give them a better environment. Because you don't know, bro, what happens to your girl child when they're not next to you. You know, they could be raped. So many things could happen to them. But if you're the father and you're earning and you have love, you can look after them. Even the mothers can actually do that. But you always worry as a father, I just want to protect them. But yeah, it's an interesting
But I think
topic.
even if you're not earning, hey, it's just be a present father, be a present parent in general, right?
Yeah.
'Cause that's what
whether
kids
you're earning
need,
or
eh?
not, because there are families where you find that both parents they're present and they're not really doing well, but it's such a happy family. And in such circumstances, we find that children grow up to be the best version of who they can become because they come
very
from
difficult,
this
though.
stable
It's very difficult because you can't
environment.
send them to what you want to send them to the schools. You send they become
But
child that can
I
live with
get
other
what you
kids,
mean.
you know?
Get what you mean. But also remember, coming from a stable environment helps you to think positive about life in many situations.
You see, when they are not earning, here's the thing. I grew up with an anxiety. The reason why I'm a fat piece of shit is because we didn't have food. So you aspire to food. Like, you think of food every day. Like, from the time that you are hungry in the morning until maybe we'll say later, someone is going to make a plan and there's going to be bread. So by the time you see the food, you eat 6 slices because you aspire for it. You aspire towards food. So it creates food is your dream and you overeat. That's why you're malnourished even when you're poor. Because the one time that you get to eat per day, you eat too much if there is too much. Most of the time there's nothing to be eaten. Yeah, but so I'm just saying, like, I get that. Like, if there's a mother and the father was poor, let them raise their children. That's dope. Well done to them. But still, you don't want to raise children in a poor environment. You don't want to make children when you cannot afford to take them to the schools that you want to take them. You know that statistically there's a better chance of them to become something, a minister, whatever the fuck, if they went to a certain school, if you give them a certain grounding. But if you are poor and your parents, it's best to do it, the two of you. Because the combined grant or whatever, one is earning a grant and the other one is doing piss jobs, at least you can work towards raising better kids. But still, it's not an ideal environment to grow up poor. Like, it's fucked up to grow up in a poor environment. There are psychological problems that we still deal with because we grew up in poor places. Because you have to do things. You have to go to Komakelwane, who is going to demean you. But she's going to give you the rice, right? But she's going to demean you. You're going to hear things that they say, Komakelwane, it's the sugar. It's you again, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? And it fucks with you because you have to go there and you have to rice and beg, you know what I'm saying? And you're begging on your behalf and your stepfather's behalf or your mother's behalf as well. You know, they send you there because they know it's a less of a shameful confrontation when it's a 10-year-old kid who's going there. And that's why the Makelwane can say stupid shit like that, you know. But then still, she's giving, at least she's still giving, even though she's saying scornful things. So that's like, it creates these beings that we are. That's why we kill each other 20,000 times per year. Yeah, but because we are these fragile human beings who grew up in fucked up circumstances. Because when you look at the statistics, most of the deaths that happen in the township. And it has to be linked with poverty. It has to be linked with the way that we raise each other, the way we grow up around each other, the things we say to each other. Because when you're poor, you're treated worse than everyone else. Yeah, but anyways, without deviating from the topic. Magesh?
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Tell sad.
Yes.
Oh.
I was not trying to make you guys sad.
No, because no. I still wanted to come on with what you were saying before we go to Magesh, to say there's a poor circumstance that you find yourself, but there's an enrichment of minds that you as parents can actually instill in the children. Because yes, ukuyocela ushukela and whatnot, it's not a good thing. But you come back and then mommy says, you know what, it's gonna be okay. You know, you are gonna be the best in this and that and that. I still think it's circumstance, Nkululeko, and all the psychological effects that the conversations that we have with our children will always determine the kind of children that they are in the future, the kind of love, the kind of affection that you give to them. Because remember, those are priceless things that money cannot buy. But then if you encourage a child to say, Mtanami, even if it's just one slice of bread, let's go out there and play soccer. You never know who's going to be on the soccer pitch on that day. But yeah, but I'm saying, Guti, even if it's a poor environment, it cannot be mentally poor as well. So if there's
that place is stressful
mentally,
enough, they don't even go to stadiums to watch. I used to coach. That place is so stressful enough. I had 100 kids. I used to coach them when I was 20, 21 until 25. I sacrificed work, come back from work, go and coach kids. I had a club at the time. We play matches, like hundreds of matches per year. The parents have bigger problems to deal with than to go and watch their kids. They're not supportive. These are broken people giving birth to broken people, and so on. So it's a cycle.
Go drink.
Yes, we can buy
So no, but I think I was referring to the parents that it's up his job. And then there's a grant, but then they are able to raise children properly where there's no alcohol, there's no what involved.
But also there are those parents that even if they do drink, but they take care of the family. Like they'll teach their boys how to be young men and how to interact with women. They'll teach the girls how to be, and home becomes a safe heaven for the kids, and they grow up with that positive mind in terms of how they look at things.
I need to take you guys on a time in motion study. Go back to my township. I'll show you one day when we have money, where we all are making money.
But I think
podcasting. I'll show you. Like, you will see it. Those are broken people giving birth to broken people who are going to give birth to broken people who are going to give birth to
and the vicious cycle continues.
And so on and so forth. I'm not discounting that there's probably people that are positive. Where do you get the positivity if you dropped out at grade 3? Most of the parents in my township, grade 3, grade 5, they beat each other, they drink. Even the ones that have piss jobs. I have one player was so good. I loved him so much. I used to go to his house. They have a radio. They don't even have a TV. They have a radio. They listen to everything on radio. And the father works piss jobs. He's trying to be a father, but he drinks almost every day his money. You know, he's not as abusive as I've seen other people. You see, you even have to compare abuse. Like, he's loving, but he's abusive and shouting and maybe trying to hit the mother, but not as bad as I grew up. So you have to even rate that abuse. It's a broken, like, if you can study township people, you'll see those are broken people giving birth to broken people who give birth to, because that kid I'm talking about now, he drinks. He's 2001.
So he doesn't take his football career anyway?
No. And he got matric, he drinks as well. And so many other kids. It's just one kid.
So he's not working?
No, I don't think he's working. The last time I checked. You know?
So then I think the big lesson that we probably have to learn as human beings in general is that when we get into relationships, going back to your point of being responsible, that when we get into relationships, be clear of why you're there. Because then once you're going to engage in a sexual intercourse, I mean, there are consequences to that. Either you're going to get a STI, HIV, or you're going to get all of them and the child. So if you're not ready to have a child, why open yourself up for that possibility? There are condoms, there are contraceptives, and
there's abstinence.
And sometimes, exactly. But obviously, because you're this person, you abstaining, it might be difficult. But I think from a women's perspective, take care of yourself in that way. It doesn't matter how much you love the person, but think of the worst case scenario in case things don't work out.
This is what
will
we say,
you be able to go forward?
You remember whenever there's a Father's Day and when women are going hard at men, and it happens in the hundreds of thousands every Father's Day on digital media, right? This is the counter that we say, like, yo, bruh, this is a pandemic. Every day is Father's Day. You guys go hard at your baby daddies for being deadbeats, right? The same thing we say to women, because we are persuading each other, like, yo, bro, but why can't you vet these people before you make a baby? And then people come up with hundreds of thousands of reasons. I was young, I was 19, I could not have known at the time, we were just having sex. Yeah, but maybe through these platforms, through podcasting, because TV is not doing it, we can conscientize people, just vet people, like, yo, find out where she's been, what she's about.
But guys as well, you need to be responsible enough that, you know, if you know you're not ready to make a child, condomize all the time, or otherwise take it out and, you know, let it rain outside.
The woman is the gatekeeper, though, in that situation. She can decide when someone is insisting on not having a condom, she can always say no. Like, I'm not saying I'm blaming her, but women are the gatekeepers of that. Like, me and you and Nhlanhla, if I insist on not having a condom when you want a condom, you can be the decider. The only thing is other circumstances, like maybe I have more money than you. You see in financial incentives, sometimes you're 20 years old and I'm 30. you know that there's a reward. I'm going to give you 2,000 after all of this, and you need that money. There's always context, but the woman is always the gatekeeper. There's nothing we can do, bro, as it relates to kids that women, if they consent to it.
But why can't we get to a point where if we are not married, we can enjoy sex without putting ourselves in such situations and wait when we are married and make kids? Like, why can't we be conscious
we need to be conscientized about
the
that.
fact that you can have sex without making a child or getting HIV or getting an STI?
We first need to be educated about those things. Like, it must be a propaganda. Like, just like COVID, the masks, don't touch this, don't touch that. It must be ubiquitous everywhere you go. That must be the message. Until in 20 years, 2 generations from now, then young kids get it. It will never happen, because just look at AMA 2000, the way that they're so free with sex. But the way that they're so free with it, they are the easiest demographic. If you want sex as a man and you're 500, you can go to Tembisa, you can go to Alex, you can go anywhere. You will get AMA 2002 and they will give you a threesome. AMA 2002, just with the 500. Just look at how easily.
But not even in the townships. So if
anywhere,
in suburbs, anywhere. I mean now, okay. Let's move.
Izanazo. Oh wow. Yeah. Magesh.
Yeah, it's a sad one.
It's true.
It's a sad one.
It's sad. And look, I think there's a clip I saw of Mage's podcast where Kabelo was there, and he spoke about how Magesh is not given enough of the flower. He's not given his flowers because he's done so much. He was talking about the Magesh before the accident and the Magesh after the accident, and but we never really got much out of him, But like, it's just going back to how TKZ was formed, like 3 high school friends, Bochis Boybako St. Stephen's, coming together and breaking barriers.
So they were cheese boys.
Yeah, they went to St. Stephen's. Is still expensive today. Till like this day, it's still the
So they made
school.
cultural impact as cheese boys.
Yeah, they did. See, cultural
culture,
impact. Yeah, because that's what they did.
That's
and
what's
like
happening till today. But please go on.
Yeah, so it's
But wasn't Zoi from that Drakensberg?
At some point,
no, but
he's there, and then he comes
in the Drakensberg, I felt like a matric, so you can't complete your matric at Drakensberg boys. So it felt like a grade 10, and then 11 and 12 you see to finish where you go. So that's where he completed his matric. So that's how the trio met. In 1996 they gave us. That's when they formed TKZ, and then they gave us that Palafala. So they arrived with that song. They gave us that song, and I think it was just after 2 years or so after apartheid years, or after the so-called freedom that we still don't have.
Our identity.
We were still, and then they found it immediately for us through music. Because I think in every other circumstance pre-apartheid. During apartheid, music was liberating a lot of people. Your Miriam Makebas, your Hugh Masikelas, they sang, they liberated people through music. And now that we had found ourselves, here was a young crop of people coming out and gave us a new genre for the first time at that time. Well, Kwaito was there, but these ones just gave us something completely different. And like every child in the township, everywhere you'd go, it was like, it was one of those sing-alongs that you cannot miss. And he always stood out. I'm not sure if he was the Beyonce of the TKZ, but he was the T in the TKZ. He was the T in the TKZ.
You loved his lyrics and music?
I loved his music, his lyrics, and I was listening to his, what we do, including myself, I'm guilty of that. When people die, we start lilistening to their music again.
That's the first thing I did. I went to Spotify immediately. Immediately. There's a song that Danles recorded. Mm-hmm. It's called Time and Time Again. Can we do it again? Happily Happy. I think it's Kulichana, one of my favorite rappers, plus Dales and Magesh as well. That's the first song.
Because I remember he tweeted Kulichana to say, his dream was to have Magesh in his features, and he's happy that dream came true.
He got to do it, and that was a dope song.
He got to do it, So there's a song, it was him, Tuli Tilis, and the late TK. So Tuli Tilis is late, number one thoughts. Yeah. So Tuli Tilis is late, TK is late, and now Magesh Ubalandele. So they are all going to make like a melody in heaven. But listening to all the songs, Mandoza, named his son Tukullo actually,
Oh, nice
because
one.
they were that close, you know.
Yeah.
And Abo Shabalala bonke, because remember Mendoza was Mduduzi Shabalala. This one
Yeah.
was Tukullo Shabalala. So I like, you know, I started going through like, you know, the music and all of those things, and I was like, damn man, this was some good music. But unfortunately, you know, we move with the times, and you know, that's what happened to them. And Liena, he didn't really come up, and I'm a bit sad because Casper is quite good in sort of like bringing the people up. I'm not saying I blame him. I'm not saying Casper should have done anything, but there was no feature as far as like younger after Kulichina. Yeah, you know, they wanted to feature him.
Could it have been that maybe he was a bit quiet compared to the other two, because the other two is still like you could see them now and then.
Oh yeah, because Magesh didn't really do
Cycles.
interviews and
Yeah,
stuff.
He was a little bit, you know, quiet. But perhaps that's the reason why they sort of missed him. Yeah.
But I don't know, Tha posted a
What did Nota post? What did
Nota
Nota
posted
post?
the last conversation he had with Magesh.
What was that?
I don't know what is it that they were supposed to do, but he posted a screenshot of the last conversation that he had with Magesh, obviously around music. So I guess maybe he was there. He was just waiting for somebody to come and approach him, you know, because now, unlike Zwei, unlike Kabelo, he was not out there. Maybe he was just like, you know what, I'm doing whatever. I'm living my life, and I'm just happy to be on the sidelines. To be honest, I don't know what he was doing, but I got to see him perform the last time at Casper's fight in Rustenburg. And like, it was that surprise act that came through. That was the last time I actually saw him perform. And he just told me that he was at the
How
Nedbank
did you
Cup.
find the performance?
Listen, we were talking about whatever, right? Because now the boxers were about to come through, and like now we're getting ready for the main
Yeah, for
fight,
the main
right?
event, yeah, I
and as we're
remember that.
getting ready for the main fight, and they said there was a surprise act. And then boom, it was
Because they-
TKZ. Everybody stood up, everybody sang. We were all like, oh my God, TKZ. And it was so good to actually see Tukullo. Zwei, obviously Selima Grootman, you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, they're no longer like as young as they
young.
were, but the music was so timeless, and everybody displayed that as we were standing up, singing, and just having a joy, man.
Yeah, I
So
think for me, like what was always interesting was the dynamic. So there's a guy called Lupumlo Ngayisa, Lupi.
Oh yeah.
He was on a breakfast show
With Thomas
with
and
Thomas
them back in the
Msangana and
day, yeah.
BBK on Metro FM. And every time they played a song, whether it was TLC or Destiny's Child, every time they played a song with groups, he always brought across the point that groups break up. So if Mikasa breaks through around 2008, he says, they're gonna break up. He sounds gay with his voice, actually.
Yeah.
Something if that sounds fucked up, sorry. But yeah, it sounds like a gay nigga when he speaks. They're gonna break up one day.
think
Like he had a skeptical outlook about groups because he knows ukuthi bazoxabana ngemali. Like he knows ukuthi at some point when bread needs to be broken and it's a 50,000 rand gig, they have to split it across 3 people plus pay the backup and the DJ and the transport and everything. With ETKZ, I always remember the dynamic. I always loved Kabelo. I think Kabelo was lyrically stronger than Magesh in terms of writing his stuff. And that's why he won awards as a solo artist with Rebel with the Cause and other I think back to back best Kwaito either 2003 and 2004, something around that time. I've always loved Kabelo. I loved his redemption story. He's my favorite from TKZ. I think though with Magesh, what's interesting is that he's the coolest.
No,
He's
but Kabelo
effortlessly
disagrees with you there.
No,
Because
he says, yeah, he does
did say
I'm
like
making-
he was like
Mina, I'm making an analysis with that group. I always choose Ukabelo
Ukabelo.
because I got to follow him esenzo zonke amateka amasha nabantwana bahle zonke.
Oh, so
And
you followed him as a solo
I followed
artist.
him as a solo artist,
Yeah.
and he was more successful. I could empirically say he was more successful,
Than
more
the
disciplined.
trio.
There was a redemption story. He talked about doing drugs, and he changed his life. He became disciplined and stuff like that. With Magesh, he's effortlessly cool, coolest motherfucker in the world. Like you, like, oh, I would like to be this guy because he flows. And they even say that when they were recording him, they would allow him to do freestyle. And because in music, you do 10 takes and you get tired. It's like, I did this right, but you must do it again. I did this right, you must do it again 12 times, 30 times. And that's what musicians complain about. Because Magesh was such a maverick, they wanted him to do his first take freestyle and he's done. And then he can go. because it was always very difficult to ukumbamba in one place because he was cool. He was wanted by women. He was the epitome of cool, man. And Junior Kanye was saying when we were together midweek, it's like, that's my favorite person in the world. People look up to that guy because he's cool. He's so cool, even when he raps it, he makes it effortless. When he raps in Kwaito, he makes it effortless. I love him. I prefer Kabelo because of the discipline and proving track record which he went on to become a mega Kwaito star. Even though Magesh was super cool. He's super cool. I love him. I don't know if you follow the TKZ.
Yeah, I think it's a group, right? Because then when they sort of, got apart, I then also started following Kabelo because I think his journey has been so inspirational.
Mr. Buga Two Shoes.
So, yeah.
Did you follow him by default? Because I don't think Zwei did anything significant outside of the group as well as Magesh.
Yeah.
So Kabelo was naturally
Yes.
the other person to follow.
Probably
Not that
that's-
but
yeah,
that's where-
because of
that's
the
where-
case.
Yeah,
Kabelo.
You're quite correct.
No,
That-
because
that's-
there was
that's probably
nothing else.
because-
It's not as if
No, but remember,
Tukolo-
Do we remember Tukulo's solo albums? Do we
Yes.
remember them as
Yeah.
award-winning albums?
No, that's a thing. Like you saying, he was cool. He did it there. I don't think he was one person that needed to. Remember, as the trio, right? Hunale Oling, more focused. I want to take this to the empire level,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
right.
But also-
Then there's one that's gonna say, "Oh no, you know what? I'm happy here." And I'm cool to do this because I like it and it ends there. And then there's the other one that said, no, guy, we need to check the lights are on, check the sound, we'll never be the same, right? So whoever, I think Kabelo, because Unanali, that passion about music and also that redemption story, that's why he came out like that. Uzwai was the producer and T was the coolest T in the TKZ.
Yeah.
And he didn't really want everything else outside of that, but Kabelo wanted more and Heinz got more. That's why we all gravitated towards him because there was nothing else other than the
You
tree.
quite-
But he was
right, because-
Swembo as well. At the same time, Beran Swembo as well.
Yeah, he was
Not
cool,
because he was
eh?
the only one releasing. No?
Yeah.
Beran Swembo, he was the best Kwaito artist on his own. Pansula for Life is fucking godly to
Yeah.
this day.
Yeah.
It's godly to this day because he was cool. Because he does say Magesh is better than him. I empirically say, Uguti, you had a better career than Magesh. Now Kabelo is my favorite. He had a better
Because he
career.
had a longevity
He had a
in
But
the
then
career.
it's not like he was
For-
just releasing.
Yes.
Yeah.
'Cause
It
wasn't.
But also, I think he got it right from the business aspect of things because he made sure that there is that longevity and that every time when he comes, obviously now you've got this pressure of I was in a group, now I'm alone, so how people are going to receive me? But it's obvious that he put in the effort to ensure that he still brings it on. I mean, Zwei has always been working as well. It's just that he's been more behind the scenes.
Yeah,
than,
he does a lot of other things.
But-
he teaches music. He does a lot of
he
things.
learns a lot of valuable and things that are impactful. But I think also Kabelo, it was that thing that he made sure that he comes and as a musician that he's always received well. Besides knowing him from the group.
Nah, I'm fair to go. I know a lot of people, even the people that are watching, they love Magesh. And Magesh is cool, but he's the guy we want
Okay,
to be.
Baba.
He is the guy. If
He's
you
that
are
guy.
if you're a straight guy, if you are like Kabelo, you can get any chick in the world.
No, if you were Magesh, you'd get any girl
That's
in
what
the
I'm
world.
saying. If you are like him, if you change.
You just said
Oh, sorry,
Kabelo.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
If you're like him,
Magesh.
oh Magesh,
If you're
he's
like Magesh, yes.
He'll get any chick in the world.
Anywhere, whether Slay Queen, whether
Yeah.
Cherasekas,
That's
because
why
he
he's the
could fit
Beyonce
in
of that
everywhere.
group. That's why he's the Beyonce of that group. Because he knew his light shines brighter than all of the guys. But then again, that makes him not as disciplined as Ukabelo, not as disciplined as Uzwai, which is not a hit on his legacy. He is phenomenal. He was phenomenal. Just for the sake of conversation, I'm just saying that when we look at that group dynamic, I choose one, the one that I model my career over, this hard work, keep on grinding, keep on doing things, keep on improving. I would rather be Kabelo. And Kabelo, I'm sure he used to get a lot of women too, but Magesh was super, super cool. He was the epitome of cool.
You didn't say that about a pastor.
Eh?
You didn't say that about a pastor.
I wanted to say awumfundisi ukhuluma kanjani komfundisi
Kabelo.
Pastor Kabelo Mabala.
Oh, he's a pastor.
Yes.
Oh, shout out to him.
No,
No,
at
not
Rema.
Grace, at
At Rema,
Rema.
not
Oh,
Grace.
okay, shout
Not
out, shout
Grace.
out. And he speaks nice English because they are cheese boys.
does.
St. Stephen's,
He
come
does.
on. Come on. Obvious.
Yeah, what happened to
So-
Makhadzi at Miss SA?
You were there.
So,
You were there in what capacity?
Oh, he was a guest.
Now I have to dish out my.
Just in case you was invited to be
I
there.
was invited. I was a +1 to someone who was going. So
okay, you were not
so
one of the people that chose the winners.
no,
Not that you
are.
that is no. What's coming actually is me being a host there. But anyway, going to the issue. So Zozi sees Makhadzi, and Makhadzi was performing that night, and she gave a brilliant performance. Like I saw
absolutely, yeah.
Makhadzi, and I thought, I want to go to a show. She gave a brilliant performance. It wasn't long, but for that moment she was on stage, I promise you, she gave it her all. And so Zozi was about walking past Makhadzi, noticed Makhadzi, goes to hug Makhadzi and greet her. And as she does that, the bodyguard quickly comes and pulls
Who's
Zozi
bodyguard?
away. Zozi's bodyguard, we assume, because that's, pulls her away, more like he's protecting her from Makhadzi.
Yeah.
Which for me was such a disappointment to say, are you ignorant or what? Because I totally understand it's your job to protect the person, but if Nkululeko goes back to greet Nhlanhla, I should read that situation to say, okay, it's actually Nkululeko that went to Nhlanhla, not Nhlanhla that came to Nkululeko, right? Give it a moment. And also, I mean, you look at the space, you look at the person. This person had just performed on the stage. Like, what are you missing there? And who doesn't know Makhadzi for that matter?
Because I wanted to say, you know, with bodyguards, right? There's a time and a space where they know that they should be active and they should not be active. More so if it was backstage, if it was wherever, right? They know that all the people that are there are people that are meant to be there. So they are meant to interact with one another. So where did they miss the brief, in a sense that, never mind knowing who Makhadzi is, right? What was the brief to say, if we go backstage, or if we are in front of the stage, or we are in this circumference, like, why do you have to activate your bodyguardness in that particular space? You know, I think that's where they
I
missed
also
the
find it
brief.
very unnecessary, and that's what I'm saying. Perhaps the guy is either ignorant or he was just disrespectful towards Makhadzi.
But sometimes
No, I don't think it comes from
umthethwa
no,
uvumi,
I don't think it comes from a place of disrespect.
But here's the
I
thing.
buy the theory of ignorance.
Yeah.
But and we discussed this off air as well. I think that you would rather have. So that guy is stupid. He's full of shit. He should know who Makhadzi is, right? We can all agree with that. That you should at least know, because she was performing there, and you within that conversation that we could not hear properly, he could have picked up what Zozibini is excited for Makhadzi, right? But at a level of the specific detail of his job, is that you would rather have that embarrassing moment than have Zozibini Tunzi dead. Her life was not in immediate danger, but the specifications of your job is that I would rather trend and be lambasted and be bashed like he's being bashed now. And they trended number one, both of them, at some point, right, midweek last week. Now, I would rather have that than have a dead body of someone I'm presiding over. And that's it. Like, I get the context here, Uti, it's backstage, everyone must be there. But I think also we calming ourselves down as well. What it did was something like this. Like, it's not like he grabbed her, and she was gracious enough as well. She's so smart. She was gracious enough to say, yeah, but like, okay, it's cool. Like, I don't want you to escalate
but
it
did
more.
you know, if you look at the clip, did you notice that it affected her to a point that even when Prof. Nhlanhla was coming to
That she
greet
went
her,
to Tholo, yeah.
yeah, she was happy, but it was more of now she was pulling back. So she went greeted, hugged, but she pulled back quickly.
Yeah.
And that also plays a major role in a person's psyche. My thing is, I can just imagine that bodyguard was not with Zozi for the first time on that kind of an event. They probably have been moving around with her in many kind of events.
Yeah.
One of the things that you do, and this it comes probably from training as well, how you need to be taking care and be able to read the situation. Firstly, Zozi didn't even take that much time where we can say maybe they were rushing, then she had to go. That's why I'm interpreting it as an issue of safety, that he probably did that because he felt like maybe Zozi is not safe. But at the same time, you read the situation. Common sense also plays a part in every kind of job that you do, especially if you're experienced. And I'm sure they take people that are experienced, that know their jobs to do that. For me, it was uncalled for her to do that. It was unnecessary to do that.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying we can all agree he was full of shit or ignorant. But at the level of doing his job properly, we are attaching ourselves from being Makhadzi's fans now. We are looking at that man doing his job, you would rather have that guy. Like if any celebrity,
but even
if
from
any celebrity, no?
even from Zozi's point, right? Because now it says people are now going to be afraid to
not
interact
really.
with her.
I get that she would rather not have people talk about this now. You know, it's an embarrassing moment. But if any celebrity who is smart enough and is looking for security, they would rather want that man who's unnecessary than you just coach him sometimes. When I'm here, if I am doing a reality TV show at DSTV and I have to go to those studios, you can't be harassing those people. Just be around me. But if people want to take photos, allow them quickly. But also, obviously, have your guard up. But don't harass people about push or not about push. So it's a conversation to be had. I mean, we are human beings. No, don't do that again. And it's over from that moment. But it's important for that man to do that for his job. It's important. There's sometimes people can be tested, bruh. Like, I'm trying to test whether you can do your job. I put that situation on you. And I see you go to, no, you motherfucker, you were lenient. And he loses 30,000 rands per month as a salary. Yeah, but because it was lenient. And they're looking at, because maybe that security is there full time for Miss South Africa. I don't know whether they're given that.
Yeah, but with her, it's even worse. She's been Miss Universe.
Miss Universe. Maybe
usually
the
they're
security
highly
is there.
guarded. So
Yeah, well, maybe the person is there full time and they maybe supervise. Just like referees in football, they have a match commissioner there. Someone is supervising how they do
I
the
get
job.
what you're saying, Nkululeko, and I'm not taking it away. But what I grapple with is you've been into this kind of spaces with this person so many times.
Yeah.
I feel that was unnecessary. As much as it's critical that you do your job,
Yeah.
but guys, common sense in every work that you do, there's common sense, that comes around.
So if I'm guarding Nhlanhla, let's get up. If I'm guarding you,
Yeah.
if I'm your bodyguard, right?
Yeah.
Stand here. If I'm your bodyguard, my natural instinct at all times, as you see people, it's either I'm right in front of you,
Or behind.
or someone else is behind you, right? So my natural instinct, I would imagine, I've never been trained in this, but my natural instinct is that every time someone approaches you, whether you know them or not, like the natural instinct is to do something like this. Every time you just get between the person that you're protecting and the person who's approaching them. Now what happened there was that he just pushed her, like, I know it's embarrassing now, we saw the clip, no? But push her. Yeah, but it's not like something where it was so embarrassing. Like he's assaulting her.
But that small push changes everything for all of us.
We are overreacting because we're fans. I get it. Like,
And you have to talk about something at some point.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it was such a big deal type of thing. But I get it. Like, he's stupid if he doesn't know Makhadzi. He's ignorant if he's in the same vicinity. There was a performance at the end. And you don't know who's who, because you should know, like, your awareness.
But even if it was at the beginning of it, right? Even if it was at the beginning of it, because now Zozi was a judge. She comes with other judges, right? And as they come, I mean, you read the room, like. You read the room. Who's in
But
this
we don't know what
space?
the guy's brief is.
Yes,
The question here is
So
the
nobody
brief.
should touch Zozi, even
Like,
if
do you understand?
Zozi goes to them. Even if Zozi goes to them, because in this instance, it's Zozi that went to them.
So I'm a natural instinct. She's
Yeah.
excited that
Yeah.
she's seeing Makhadzi.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the briefing necessarily in her head. But she's doing something that perhaps she was briefed not to do too much as a safety
The natural
measure.
instinct.
Yes, because it's a big institution in Miss South Africa, it's a South African thing. What if the securities were bought by Miss South Africa to make sure that the charges are safe? Yeah, but something like that. But anyways, I don't think that it's a non-story. It's a fun topic to discuss because it gives us multiple angles to understand things, even with the audience as well, an opportunity to see how people see things. And my instinct was like, what if that nigga was just doing his job? I saw the clip and I'm like, nah, but this nigga. And also I saw the impact of the push. I was like, nah, it's nothing much. But then I saw it trending. I'm like, oh shit.
There we go.
It's like, she has a headache wherever she is. She didn't start
because
that.
she's not that kind of a person.
No, she's not.
I mean, she's the one who
Shame,
turned
she's
it.
not.
So that's what it
Yeah,
means
but
to be Miss Universe.
Yeah, it brings that your safety comes.
If we didn't know
first.
anything about being Miss Universe, we know
This
now.
is what
Now we know what it's like.
Yeah. But even being
But who
Miss
won
South
though?
Africa
Like
as
talking
well.
about Miss South Africa, you were
Yeah.
there. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the contestants and even the drama. Who won? Navino Kere from Limpopo.
Yeah,
What happened?
Mercury won. I'm super proud that she did win because I mean, besides the fact that she's smart and she's beautiful, so she basically fits or embodies what Miss South Africa should be and look like. She comes from Limpopo, and her hometown. I
Do we know if she's Tsonga or Pedi?
Tonga.
She's
Tonga.
Tonga.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know her hometown, and for me, I always
Zanin.
embrace such things.
She's from Zanin.
But
She's from Zanin.
Zanin, or because it's there's a name that is given of her
Oh,
hometown.
yeah.
So it could be a place next to Zanin or closer to Zanin. And for me, I embrace such because it means we don't only look from people that comes from
From the
cities and
burbs.
so that was great. The interesting dynamic was that now as they go to the finals, this time around it was just top 2. And we're so used to top 3, right?
Okay.
So this time around it was top 2. It was Ayanda Tabete and herself, and not the Ayanda Tabete.
Not
that,
Tabuti.
because then everybody had been confused about that,
Yeah.
on Twitter. And she's also brilliant. She's smart. She's beautiful, And but Ngweri won, and it was a good show. We know Miss South Africa always brings it on when it comes to production. There was a lot of other young women that won other Miss what throughout. And
Do we
what
still
that
have Miss
said-
S18 as a separate thing?
Yes, it's a separate
Okay.
organization that does that. But beyond that, you have Miss Earth, Miss a whole lot of beauty pageants that are happening, and others. It was my first time seeing
Yeah,
them.
there's tiny pageants.
So, but observing all of that because
Yeah.
they came wearing their crowns and sachets, and you basically read it's different names, and it then dawned to me that this is like the ultimate for all of them. They all look up to, as much as I'm doing it in my province, in my hometown, wherever I'm doing it, but the ultimate is being Miss South Africa, and you see even the pride in terms of wearing, their crowns and stuff, and how they walk and carry themselves. It's basically that, the journey goes there. So it's quite a big thing.
There was a debate of Ayanda Tabete should have won versus the current one. What was your view there? Can I just put you on the spot?
I think I should say it.
No,
right?
he wasn't watching. Remember, he doesn't watch.
No,
all these
we've
things.
had an off-air conversation
Spoken
about it.
about.
So, in my view, Ayanda should have won.
Okay.
I think the reason she didn't win it's because of her height, because she's really short. Like,
So it's got nothing to
compared
do with that
the-
the president of this country comes from Limpopo. Just asking.
I wouldn't. No, I don't think so.
No, I'm just
I
kidding.
don't think so. I don't think so.
I'm just
I
kidding.
think what compromised Ayanda is the height. Otherwise, she has everything that we're looking for. Because, like, the way she's short, it's so obvious that when she's standing with the top 5 girls, you
You
can
can
see
see
she's the shortest. And like it's yeah.
Yes.
I think that's what compromised.
You had
her.
concerns about Anele. What was your take of her hosting? You were worried that Anele replacing Bonang at some
Yeah.
point. We talked about it before.
Yeah. No, okay. I think she
You should change your mind?
For me, she redeemed herself.
Yeah, I
Well,
told ya.
when you redeem yourself, you do something wrong and then correct it.
Yes.
She didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
She was just her normal self.
Yeah, but the reason I'm saying redeemed is because I was doubting her. So she
Yeah, so
proved
in
you-
she
changed
sort of
your
proved
mind.
So she
me
proved you wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I actually remembered your words that
Yes.
let's give her a chance because now it's even her first time doing it on her own, right? And there's a whole lot of pressure because it's a live show.
Yeah.
It's a big production. There's certain instances where you have to think on your feet and all of that. And she really brought it on.
I saw someone saying if Bonang was there, they would have changed 3 outfits already or some shit like that. Hey, people
Okay,
are petty.
I was actually going to.
People are petty, bro.
No, they're not petty. They're not
What is wrong?
petty.
Like,
No, is
I
that-
think
is it
it's
not
because
normal to have one outfit?
I think it's
then?
because remember, as individuals, you wanna bring your own twist to
Personality
something.
to it.
You see,
Your
maybe she was
personality to
thinking,
it.
if I change 3 outfits, I'm copying the previous host.
No, but I think Annelies she was just being herself, right? It's just that we used to Bonang changing so many times. Now we now expect that Anneli will do the same. It's just because we used to. But it's not really necessary that it should happen.
Yeah.
But she did change. I mean, she had 3 outfits
Okay.
outfits throughout the night. The when people were actually
So what's the complaint about?
that she took long to change.
How would you pick that up?
Because
There would be
by
delays.
the time she was changing, for Bonang would have gone to the 3rd outfit.
Oh, I see
So,
what
so
you're
how
saying.
Bonang does it is as contestants are changing the outfits, she also changes.
She'll get into the
between,
swing of things.
You know, so with Anele, she took longer because
She will get into the swing of things. Don't
Oh,
worry.
if-
Anele, maybe if she comes back next year.
no, but also, I mean, I think she was being herself. It was unfair that we can expect that she'll do the same
Yeah,
thing as
in a quick
Bonang
time.
did.
If
She
even though
was
she
being
weighs
herself.
twice her,
And I mean, the
whatever,
garments
they're
that
not
she
the
was
same people.
exactly, and the garments she was wearing were beautiful, and for her body shape, they suit her very well. She was just pretty.
All right, there you go. One other thing about Miss SA before we move on is a question I would like to ask you guys. I read that the terms and conditions are changing so that people who've given birth could contest on Miss SA. And then there's another one. People who've given birth and people who are married.
Who are married?
Yes, what do you guys think? Or automatically you guys are not happy?
Yeah.
No, because there is Mrs. South Africa
Exactly.
Or
that
there's a
caters
contest for
for,
them.
yes.
Okay.
So it caters for married mothers that still want to be beauty queens. So
Sandala.
So I won't miss. I think they should keep it at that, because the moment they change that format, let me tell you, the things that we are going through right now, the things that AMA 2000 are experiencing and all of those things, it's like you're opening more doors to, like you eliminating the moral campus that people are supposed to be following. Because at least if you don't have a child, you don't have this, because these things give you an exposure, right? When you get to Miss SA, think about this. If you are from a small town of Kobo, and then you partake, and then you become Miss Eastern
Is there
Cape,
such a town?
and then it takes. Yeah, there is such a town in the Eastern Cape called Kobo.
Hey, we know- you know places.
There is such a thing.
There
Sorry, I
is.
disturbed you.
So you come from that town, right? You get the exposure of
Changes
going
your life,
to yeah, it changes your life. It
does.
gives you that exposure. So imagine if you're going through all these changes and exposures and you still have a child to think about at home. You don't fully partake in it because now you're doing it to say, okay, ish, manga yenza so that I get school fees somntwana. Will I get a job after this? So psychologically, you're not fully present in the course that you're trying to do. And there's always been courses that you do post your announcement as Miss SA, and during your reign, there's encouragement that you need to go back to schools and encourage kids to be doing well, and it's always good to get a message from somebody who's a former perpetrator of whatever, right? But it's also good to say, I've managed to avoid this, so can you. So I don't
So when
think
she says teenage pregnancy in front of school kids, Kanti, she was teenage
Do you
pregnant at some
understand what I'm
point in her
saying?
life.
It dilutes the message. It dilutes the message completely. But now if she says, I managed not to become a teenage mom because I used to study, I had my eye was always on the ball because I wanted to become a beauty queen. I wanted to do this.
Yeah.
So if you want to be a soccer player, if you want to be a teacher, if you want to do this and that, avoid certain things so that you get to know more and expose yourself. So the message will be different. But then if it's coming from a teenage mom, it's gonna be like, Mustan, when I'm and you know how nasty school kids can be,
And
so
also it can be a
also-
twisted message of if you can be a teenage mom and be Miss South Africa,
It
I
means
can
I
do
can
it.
do it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I agree with you because as human beings, we pay attention to what a person does more than what they say,
Yeah.
right? So I think that it loses, in that case, it loses what Miss South Africa should be about. Because as Nhlanhla says, there is Mrs. South Africa. So if I'm married, what am I doing to Miss South Africa? Because then it shouldn't be Miss South Africa anymore. And it will be interesting to hear what are the reasons that actually drove them to take that decision to say, okay, now even if you're married, you can participate.
Cancel culture.
I know in the past, if you were Miss South Africa and you fell pregnant during your reign, you actually had to step
forfeit,
down,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And like Nhlanhla says, it's also about the moral campus that you want to really embrace within society, that the young girls would look up to this woman, not only beautiful, but smart, but also leading a good example, an exemplary life of, wanting to take a certain direction in life of success without doing things that you shouldn't do before the right time, if I should put it that way.
Yeah, one day we'll talk about Miss SA and whether or not it's necessary. but it's not for today.
No, it's necessary
Congratulations.
forever.
When we
Yeah.
get to
It's
that
necessary
point,
forever.
when we get to that point, one day, because I'm sure members of our audience we have different kinds of people who are
Yeah.
conscious. They will talk about the display of women for the entertainment of men, who started Miss SA, who started
Yeah.
beauty pageants in history, blah, blah, blah. But one day, congratulations to Ndavino Kerry.
Yeah.
Final words, guys, to her. What does that mean for her? She's going to be parading herself? Does she qualify to be in the contest for Miss Africa, Miss Universe?
Yep.
What is going to happen to her now?
Yeah, she automatically qualifies to go participate on Miss Universe, Miss World,
Miss Earth.
Supernatural, Miss Earth has its own on the side.
Oh, is it? So it's got nothing to do with it.
the-
Okay.
Miss Earth is Miss Earth South Africa, then they'll go participate internationally.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it does that.
Changes
That's
her
where
life,
she
no?
should be.
What
It
do
does
they do for
completely
them? Like
because
they
remember.
give her free accommodation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's got an apartment. Eclipse sponsors the apartment.
But 10 million.
It's more than 10 million, I think.
Yo.
It's worth more than that because remember it's an apartment that is fully furnished,
Yeah.
right? So you just walk in with your clothes, right? She's got an apartment. She's got
No
a car.
rent.
She's got a no. You don't pay.
Not even
nothing.
electricity.
Nothing. You just
During your
live
reign.
there. Yeah, you just live there.
Yeah.
She got a car from Mercedes Benz. She got a whole lot of other,
Price was a lot.
prizes that she won. But also
Congratulations.
remember, wherever she goes, everything is paid for.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so
it's
for the
that
next year,
glamorous life.
she's living like the president of South
You
Africa.
know, whatever money
Everything
she
is
gets,
paid
she won't
for.
even have to use it.
You know what's strange about those winners? You never hear stories about. You see, that person, ne, in theory, is the most beautiful woman in South Africa for that period. Ne?
Yeah.
Right, in theory. But of course, we can always.
Yeah.
There's a criteria for judging. Maybe
Yeah.
she was smarter than the others, whatever.
Yeah.
Right? But you never really hear a story of them being scammed by men. Because you would imagine that there's a lot of guys want to get into those panties, right? Send DMs and whatever. But you never, like in the last 20 years, you never hear what I'm shy.
When Nhlanhla is saying that after you've won, you are trained to deal with issues of media and
Yeah.
and you then realize that should you open yourself to such things, they can easily compromise your reign. So during the reign, all of them, they try by all means to stay away from things that can compromise, their journey from that period. It's only after that you'll find then they then start, get involved in certain things and all of that. Unless if they win and they were dating you. I mean, you're already in their lives. So,
and you hardly
it's
see them like with Nansley out
partners
here
or-
No,
again.
but I think it's because probably men are afraid of beautiful women. Such as
Hey.
South African.
No, that's
some
true.
niggas are
South
scams.
Africa.
Some niggas are
But
scammers. They
they-
want
they
to.
can
They
actually
know
be
what it-
chances.
it's an apartment. It's
I wanna
free
live
traveling.
there.
Let me tell you.
Bodyguards, Chumchan.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
bodyguards, so you can't
Yes.
pass the bodyguard stage.
Oh yeah.
So you can't.
Yeah.
So there's a bodyguard
Yeah.
effect as
Unless
well.
if you are.
Because I've seen the pattern with what you're saying. I'm just listening as I'm trying to recall most of them. They went on to be married women,
Yeah.
had their family. Like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking Tamron Green just got married. Was it last year or the year before? Basitsana
last
Kumar, I think I remember her.
Yeah.
She's
But
been
years
married,
after,
yeah.
and then she got married to the man that she's still with.
Yeah.
Your, the other Indian lady again?
Karishni Naik.
Karishni Naika. Then she went on,
And
she
it
got
was so exciting
married.
to see her on the red
I
carpet this
know.
year because we haven't seen her for so
Ushaba
long.
married 2010 Miss South Africa.
I didn't know
Ubokang
that.
Munjani. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So
Ubokang
like I'm
Munjani.
thinking, Horio, like, see, good girls, but they still come from there. I'm not saying most
Oh,
of
yeah.
them are
No,
there.
but I
it.
think
it-
also
it-
it's the privilege of having mentors, people that have been there, that are able to guide you to say, look out for this, look out for this. This is the kind of things that, because then you start thinking about what direction do I want my life to take. And once you're clear with that, anything that comes and it doesn't match what you intend to do in life and what you want to have, you can easily put it away.
Yeah, the fact that they get perks and security and this and that is important because
It's a big deal.
some niggas will know that's upward mobility. I'm next to her and I'm there. Yeah, some guys, bro. Like some guys, they know how to smell money.
Nah?
They know they will say, They were fake holding hands, bro, going to the beach. It's like, I can't have no feelings. Like, they're holding hands. This is upward mobility. Because she's here, I'm gonna
I can be
here.
there.
And I can brag to my niggas, like,
Yeah.
yo, I'm
Ngimshaye.
fucking the
And
most
most
beautiful.
of them are usually married by super successful people.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
That's a topic to be had
Yes.
at some point.
Yeah.
You'd hardly see women who are successful marrying bums.
Yes.
Men who are not successful.
Because they don't
Like,
roam around the same circles
yeah.
as the bums.
But Tina Singama successful men can elevate any woman from any,
True.
for as long as the physical is there.
Yeah.
And maybe when you vet, there's not too many kids or there's no kids at all. It's like, I can take this one. Like, you are a burden to me, but I can take you.
I can manage your burden.
Burden
You
for
know,
now.
Ozan.
And then automatically, because of through marriage, she becomes rich.
Yeah.
Like, even if when you break up, she will take half of your stuff. Yeah, but anyways, we need to wrap up because of time. Marikana, 10 years of Marikana, and there's decline in the numbers of soapies.
And
Where do we start?
the ANC in Northwest.
What happened?
Supra Mahoma bill. No, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about
I think
'cause like-
the decline in numbers.
Yeah.
Right?
So, yeah, just take us through
that. Because, I mean, you look at Mubango, for example, I mean, moving from 4-point-something million to 1.4 million,
Oh.
that is
Significant.
it's a significant number of viewers. And
Yeah.
now generation not even being on the top 3, right? Uzalo is still at number 1, but the numbers also dropped.
It's a 1.5 million decline.
Yeah,
Jeez,
and it's a
uh-huh.
serious now ratio to when you look at it. The big question is what causes that. You know, my thinking was now there's a whole lot of content that people consume from different platforms.
Yeah.
And you can see, like, when you even sitting watching TV, you could easily be looking at your phone and going through other things. You know, but also, are the storylines really capturing people's attention? Because for me, is if you're going to give me content that I'll watch now and want to come back, it means it's relevant, it's something I can engage with, it's something of interest. So for me, it's probably the two, the relevance of the content, and also the fact that now they're competing with all other platforms that are out there.
I'll
It's a
tell
good
you
point.
why.
It's a good point. Like the competition, the availability of more options is a good
Yes.
point.
Yeah.
'Cause
But
I
then we
wanted
have
to
to go
say-
and interrogate. I'm so sorry. I just want
Yeah.
to quickly say this. We then have to go and interrogate whether the new content across YouTube, across Showmax and Netflix, are they getting an increase? Because we have a converse. What Netflix is losing. So where are the people going then? Where is this place where, because they are living Mobango, they're going elsewhere? Is it podcasting? Is it Facebook and Twitter? Because there's Twitter. There's Twitter Spaces. I mean, when Musa Kaula is on Twitter Spaces, I see like sometimes there's 20,000 people listening and tuning in at the same time.
Yeah.
And then there's something else. Magesh, whenever he's live, 10,000 people are listening to the premiere. 24 hours later, 200,000 people have watched that. You know, so there's so much variety. But then we have to interrogate those stats to say, if there's a drop here, you were saying there's 9 million people watching Ozalo. Now you are saying there's 7 million people watching Ozalo. Where are those people going? Were the numbers correct in the first place? Sorry, you can go on.
Okay, so Siakula, right? Remember, every year there's matriculants that graduate from matric and they become first years, and
Yeah.
grade 11s go to matric and all of those things, right? And when you're a child, we sort of all watch the same thing in
Yeah,
the
we have
house,
the same
right?
experience.
So yeah, it's the rule of the household that I live in,
Yeah.
where by 8 o'clock, this is what we watch. At 8:30, like, you know, there's
the news
there's a
and
soapy
generations.
hours,
Yeah.
right, that
Yeah.
actually take place in most households. So when I leave home and I go to varsity, I sometimes Akina TV, that's number one. Number two, if I am given an opportunity to have something in the room, which is Wi-Fi,
Yeah.
then we are able to afford it. There's no way I'm going to be watching what I used to watch at home. I become now my own person. I become my own individual. I formulate my own opinions and I do whatever I want.
And you probably
even
have a
in the
phone or a
home,
laptop.
I wanted to say likontlung. Then you've got a choice to say no. But you know, mommy, like kids have got that convincing tongue. I don't know how. And then they can say no, but there's this thing that you should watch, like it does this and that and that. And obviously as a parent, you want to watch what your child is actually consuming. And then if it's that good, you guys start watching that as well. So it's an influence of many things as well. And many households right now, look, much as like there's still a large rate of poor people in this country.
Yeah.
There's also people that can afford certain things like your Wi-Fi, because there's different options everywhere with different networks that are affording people certain packages that we can contribute, even if we are living in a poor home, but we can contribute 150 each to have that subscription that's going to give us like wireless internet that is unlimited. And then we go for that, and then we've got options. At some point, we no longer need the TV because we only had that because that's all we had. But now that we've got options, we are exercising our options. So I think those are the numbers that are actually dropping.
And as you talk about numbers, I'm just recalling that Phil had actually been posting these numbers, and one of the comments that came there was, this TV is so expensive and we don't see anything new, so why should we continue? So that's another thing. They're on that platform, they're on DSTV. So if people decide that I'd rather not pay DSTV subscription but rather watch YouTube and Netflix or Showmax for that matter, which they're actually cheaper, right? So if they move there, because there's always new content that is different versus, for example, on what was the other one besides DSTV? The
Disney.
No,
Not
the
Starset.
no the
the what? Open View.
Yona le TV.
yeah, it's on DSTV. I don't know for what.
Just describe what you're talking about. You're talking about a competing dish satellite with DSTV, or you're talking about a streaming platform?
It's not even a streaming platform. Okay, I'll come back to it. You can continue with your comments. I'll
Okay.
come back to
But
it.
I think, Nhlanhla, you had a great
Okay,
theory.
I got it. I was saying Moja Love, for example.
Oh,
right?
it's on DSTV.
It's on
Moja Love.
DSTV. But I want to give example with it that it took content, I think it was 3-4 years ago, and people are still seeing me there, and they come, others who have not seen,
Were you on
thinking
Moja
it's
Love?
new. Yeah, it was a program that I was on. So people would send me texts, hey, we've seen you on Moja Love. When I check, it's something that was taken like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
And now the question is, how is it still playing? Are you not getting new content or what?
Yeah.
So then the question is, why would a person still continue to subscribe if they're seeing things
Recycling
over and
the same
over,
thing.
whilst they could be moving to another platform and check it there?
Yeah, and if you look
So-
at podcasting, for example, like there's fresh content every week. People talk about new things. And me, like, if I take it personally, like there's a TV there, but only my daughter watches that TV. Mina in my laptop the whole day in my room, and I watch. DSTV is only for the purposes of sport. And then I think per day I watch 5 hours worth of content on YouTube, and even more sometimes per day. And I know like every content creator that I follow will come up with something new every single day, whether it's news content or gaming or whatever, it's something new. So your theory is dope, like, because we had a similar experience, which is Sihlala Phansi or 7 Zindaba. Kilitaba 7:30 on SABC2, depending on which language you're consuming those news in. But then again, we all watch Generations at the same time. But these kids now have different options, and now there's Wi-Fi in townships. The moment that there's Wi-Fi for everyone, because some people have to go to the taxi rank. I know in Katlehong they have to go to the taxi rank to sit
the schools,
and pick up
Local
schools or taxi ranks to pick up the signal. The moment that is ubiquitous, like it's everywhere, and they can do it from the comfort of their own homes, it's game over for TV. And that's why for us as digital content creators, all three of us here, it's an interesting space that we are moving into, because we'll automatically have 100,000 people wanting to consume our content. That's why we must tailor content that suits them. And also there's a limitation, like you were saying about content, there's a limitation of things that they can touch on and not touch on, because they have advertisers. I was interested in speaking to an advertiser for Nkululeko and Cultr, and they said, yo bro, I love the numbers and the engagement, but the topics, because it's prostitutes and porn stars and what I'm saying, sexual assault and jail, and this is my business partner, like someone that I've made money with, and you can imagine on TV as well, because there's ad revenue to be made. There's also that pressure from UPEP who puts money on Generations to say, if we're going to put 500,000 per month to be on Generations every time, or Uzalo, which is the biggest now, then I want to be sure that there won't be any content that offends my consumers. They don't directly affect the content, but they have an impact on the content, because money needs to be made. So everything we do on Generations, the storyline, we must be careful not to bash certain groups, not to bash women, LGBTQI, and so on and so forth. Even if you're trying to do an educational story, which they did on Scandal with Thabo Malema, I think he's got an afro. I think it's Thabo Malema, he's got an afro. He had a storyline, say, abuse, ne? Where he's abusing this woman. His favorite tagline was Dumela Sipati, something like that. Every time he walks into the room, right?
Yeah.
Women wrote to Scandal to say, kill this nigga. Kill him off. He must not be there. And that was an educational thing. Like, he was abusing her, obviously, and she had a 10-year-old kid. And it was an abusive relationship that they were in. But Thabo Malema had to be killed off in that storyline because it became uncomfortable. So now the majority of people are dictating what you can see, and it gets less exciting. Even with us here on digital media, there are words we can't use. It affects our monetization. If you write the word prostitute on the title, YouTube messes up. With my interview with Saul, that's on 70-something thousand. It was going to be on 200,000. But because they picked up that we spoke LGBTQI, feminism, this and that, they picked it up because they check the words that are being used. They have a system to pick up the words that are being used. If they hear a buzzword with the computer, the ones that are on their system, Pornstar, this and this, it affects the monetization. So you can see at the beginning, within the first 5 hours, there were 40,000 people who listened to that interview, watched that interview. And then as soon as I was sent an email to say, look, this is somewhat offensive. We're just talking. It wasn't really not offensive. It was just a strong, provocative thing. What would you do if your child was this and that and stuff like that? And then we talk about it because we're people. We talk. I would do this. I would do that. If my child came up with this orientation, I'll be disappointed. But of course, it's your child. You have to love them, type of thing. But you use certain buzzwords and it affects monetization. So it happens with us now. It's starting to happen with digital creators. It's happening. It's been happening on TV. So it affects the storyline that we're talking about. That because they have to make money with advertisers, Jet wants to sell their school shoes to children whose mothers are Western generation at the time. So generation must not be showing content that will be offensive to that demographic. And then it affects the kind of content that we can see. You see. So I think, but your theory is the best one because I think people are moving away from homes. Like if there were 4 people generally or 5 people 20 years ago in a home on average, people are moving away from home. They are renting, they're moving to bigger cities, and they have Wi-Fi in the apartment that they are in. So it's like generation is no longer something that they want to watch.
So that's what happens, man.
Yeah.
That's what happens. And then Marikana is what? 10 years later now?
Yeah.
Such a, that story, right, affected me personally, right? And business-wise, I had just been a year. I had just been a year out of like corporate, right? And then after leaving corporate, we were now trying something, and we had been trying something before I left corporate. So we struck a deal with Lonmin Mines to actually produce a skills development program. So we did a pilot in that regard, and then they loved what we did and said to us, okay, no, it's fine. We'll just give you a contract post this one. And now how's this one going to happen? Is that you guys are going to run it concurrently, like on a weekly basis, because the whole thing was about ownership, right? Obviously, if you're providing people with skills, you're allowing them to actually do best on their own and then be able to sell to the miners. But the mining company is the one that's actually going to be funding the process so that you guys become like more independent. At least that way, when the mine is no longer there, it has left that lifelong legacy. So it was a project that we were doing with Lonmin Mines, and on Wednesday, we got a call to say we must come through on Tuesday and sign the contract. And you can imagine.
Yeah.
Like the excitement of that Wednesday morning, like now this thing is actually going to happen. And remember, I mean, I've been in Joburg, except when I was staying in Pretoria. So now imagine leaving Joburg to Northwest every single morning just so we get that pilot project going. And then eventually we get it. So it's like now the hard work is finally paying off. And now once the hard work is now finally about to pay off, on Thursday, the miners start striking. So in our heads, it's like, no, it's just going to be a 3-day strike, like any other strike naturally. And then we thought that, it's 3 days. And then after 3 days, we're going to finally sign our contract. And we all know what happened after that, because it wasn't 3 days. That strike took forever. But in the process, people died, and
Unfortunately.
SAPS was involved, because now with every other
That's
strike
Ilori
and
Yapiyeha.
protest and all those things, there's not live ammunition that is used,
Yeah.
but there was live ammunition used, and claiming ukuthi the miners are the ones that started shooting
Yeah.
at the policemen, and then the policemen reacted, retaliated, and then they started shooting those
And that
people.
didn't
But then
happen.
there was an instruction that came from somewhere.
Yeah, there were 2 instructions, major, maybe 3. Police Commissioner Riapiecha, Sir Ramaphosa was a shareholder of Lonmin, and then I think the Provincial Commissioner as well spoke to them 2 days before they killed them.
Yeah.
They deliberately just killed them. That's it. And the ringleader, Umambush, Mgcineni Noki, the man with the
Yeah.
green blanket,
Green blanket.
they shot him 14 to 15 times just to prove what they knew, what they were looking for him in the midst of that crowd. And
Yeah.
then the second ringleader, they shot him like 11 times, you know. And then
And-
whilst
and
everyone
that
else was
really-
shot like randomly, once or
Yeah.
twice or something like that. They shot the ringleaders specifically.
Sending a message.
Yeah, they killed those people in Marikana.
Yeah.
That's it. 10 years later, and South Africa voted for Ramaphosa to be the president.
Yeah, despite the issues that were raised,
Yeah.
like around that and all
So
of
you
those things,
get
they're
what
still
you
going
wish
to vote for him after the Pala Gate saga anyway.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that's going to change. But then, yeah, so some of the widows that actually lost their partners in the process, some of them have still not received what was due to them.
Yeah.
10
There was
years
a commission.
later.
There was a commission that decided because there must be compensation. That obviously made recommendations as well. There's been nothing after that from the widows. Lonmin has changed its name to Sibanye Stillwater.
Yeah.
Whether or not some people are suggesting that that's an angle to avoid being pursued
Yeah.
by the widowers. By the widows, yeah, but no, we're not that same company.
But
We're a different
didn't they
company.
have lawyers that were representing them?
Yeah, I think Dali was also involved.
Dali
in
was
both.
part
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, there were lawyers, and there was an amount that was granted to the widows as well. There was an amount to go to everyone must be compensated this amount.
The reason I'm raising it is because there has to be follow-ups that are made and all of that. So I'm thinking that probably the critical people to play that role will be the lawyers.
Yeah, but you know, when people have money, they drag cases on and
Yeah.
on.
I
You
wanted
have
to
all
say,
the money in the world so that cost is better than the cost you're gonna pay 34 widows, because it was 35 mine workers on that particular day, and then there were 10 other people before leading up to that. Some were or rival mine workers, and maybe 2 were police or 3 were police people. As well. So the mine, instead of paying, let's say a figure of 5 million for each widow, or maybe 2 million for each widow, which is 34 times 2, which is 68. Instead of paying 68 million, we can dedicate 5 million to dragging the shit to go on and on and on and on and on and on. And that's what happens with people who have money.
Yeah.
They drag cases because you stand more to lose with the frustration. You don't have the money for transport. And sometimes it breaks your will to say, let me leave this. And sometimes people die. It's been 10 years. Some people die
Yeah,
some
naturally.
people have died as well. But some widows were then roped in and are now employees of Sibanye Stillwaters. So to compensate them, Baba File Mesebetsi. So now instead of your husband, now you can work in your place and your
System
husband's place.
capital,
So
Yeah.
that's just how
It's
it
the
goes on. And
capitalism
sticking in the
system.
same province.
And there's a play now until end of August that what's at the theatre in Pretoria, State Theatre.
State Theatre, I saw
the,
that.
The Marikana, and one of the actresses is actually a widow from that.
Sure.
Nice one.
So yeah, so it's quite interesting also to hear those dynamics because for her. She says it's not only educating, but it's sort of therapy for her because now she's able to, deal with that on stage.
Yeah. I've watched so many plays around Marikana because I was 22 when it happened, and I was so invested that I don't think I would ever watch again because it's like I'm literally dying again. Every time I go, it's a spiritual awakening, but it's also death because I know all the facts now about that situation and I know where I stand. That's why I'm like automatically fuck Cyril Ramaphosa. Like from that age, from the time, seeing everything that happened around that, but every time, and there were beautiful artists in Cape Town there was a group called Lingua Franca. They did a beautiful tribute to Remember Marikana at the time for the first 2 years, 2013, 2014, after the massacre. And I think now, even the State Theatre one, if I was 22, 10 years ago, I would watch it, but I've died so many times with Marikana. Even this conversation, like you die every time, you have to rethink that the government kills old people.
Really. It's quite triggering.
Because they can kill you and me. Like if they can kill those people, they can kill you and
it's
me.
true.
And they will
It's
find
true.
justification.
And I think also for me, more than anything, because I've been in the union space, there's a whole lot of emotions of disappointment and really in the union leadership to say the role that you played. Well, do you feel as you sit alone that was it enough? Did you do enough?
Yeah, because it becomes absorbed in the capitalist system. You know, NUM was militant at some point, and eventually just becomes a department of the mine, really. And they mitigate between the mine and the mine workers because there's incentive. People earn as a result of that. I mean, Cyril Ramaphosa was one of the general secretary of NUM, if I'm not mistaken, in the 80s and 90s. Now he's a multi-billionaire. You know, so there's an incentive, there's a pathway. You essentially just work for us as a capitalist system.
Clayton Zimande is also one.
A communist. Zimande.
Yeah, but now he's also consumed by the government
system,
and the system as well.
Yeah,
So
because
much as he was,
you were saying something about the Northwest as well.
Yeah,
There was a story there.
Northwest, staying in politics in the same province as well, where the whole Marikana took place. The provincial elective conference, the PC took place last week. It took 4 days for that shit to kick off. Like 4 days, right?
Before everything happened.
Now people had transported themselves. People needed to cover that story. And people are like, no, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So there were people that were against it proceeding. And eventually it did. Supra Mahumapelo, who's the former premier of the province, was nominated, but he chose not to stand again for this time around. And he stated things like he wants to go national. So he wants to come in as well. The thing that stood out for me, and the reason why I want to talk about this, is that the man that you've both agreed that South Africa does not know was there in Northwest.
Ubani, the cat.
The cat was there.
Shout out to the cat, David Mabuza.
Yeah, no.
That's a gangster nigga.
Yeah. This is interesting.
He was there. And he looked so fresh. He didn't look sick.
Doing what? What was his role?
He was there.
Because that's not his province, right? It
No,
comes
it's not
from
his province. It comes from Mpumalanga.
Sometimes
So that
you can
was
be
the
sent
thing.
as a
Observer.
member of delegation.
yeah.
Member of delegation because you come from the NEC. He comes from the top 6 of the NEC as the deputy president. So sometimes you can be sent there.
Could it be that now he's starting to...
Look, hence I'm saying it's going to be interesting, right? We're looking at province by province. And, in KZN, we saw something that we were not anticipating in terms of leadership, in which direction the leadership was going to sway. Now, we've had, in Gauteng, we know Gutu Muntugabani Ogupi. We've got, who's that guy in the Eastern Cape?
Oscar Mabuyane.
Oscar Mabuyane. We know which side, like, his bread is buttered on.
That's a
like,
very good assessment.
So we're
Every
looking
province,
like,
where they lean, which side they lean towards.
So which leadership are they leaning towards? So far, there is nothing obvious about what's going to happen at the December elective conference.
Even the KZN guys were posing as though they are Zuma people, and then immediately the first statements that they are making are somewhat leaning towards Ramaphosa because they made pronouncements against RET, Radical Economic Transformation, which is the Zuma faction. So, and people were so pissed off, but of course money buys everything.
Of course.
Like, if I had money, I would never lose any battle. As long as you know how to influence people. So it's an interesting one. So who won there, do you know? Northwest.
No. I don't know who won there. I don't know who won there.
Yes, I don't know where was I then that I didn't pick that up.
Yeah.
Because I usually.
No, I forgot who. No. I know there was someone that was pronounced the new leader, but I'm not sure where they're leaning. Like, which faction are they part of? And like, hence I'm saying it's interesting to observe like how the winds are blowing and how the scale is no longer leaning towards a particular person, because like now there's different things that are happening, and then with the cat coming on there and he spoke there, and I'm like, yo, Katele Mnyama can speak.
He spoke.
You know, he even spoke to the media.
He came full force.
He even spoke to the media. So, like, you're looking at all those things that, okay, fine, Nkatele Mnyama is suddenly coming out, and we know that Northwest Province, Kisupra Mahoma Pelu, and like how he was like making things happen, and how his people still wanted him back. So, we're looking at how, like, this towards the elective conference, how things are suddenly unfolding. Certain faces that you've not seen in politics in a while are now resurfacing as well. So, it's going to be a very, very interesting one.
Right.
Come this December.
There you go. Any more, guys? Last words?
Last words, Gauteng sports announcements were done like a couple of days ago last week.
Is it nominees? Who's nominated?
Yeah, they're going to tell, like, yeah, so it's who's nominated. So we'll look out for that as well. But other than that, we're good, we're healthy.
Yeah, we happy.
Next week we need you here.
No, I'm
You know what's going to be said is
Yeah.
that every single time you speak, they have to look at us and we're not speaking. That's why I had to come back.
Oh,
here.
yeah.
Every
yeah.
time you speaking, we have to
Yeah,
listen.
but my skin is terrible for me to be there.
My skin is
Please
yellow.
forgive me.
What you mean, Simone? My skin is yellow.
But yeah,
That's the first thing I
sorry,
noticed
can I
about.
just ask you something? I
Yeah.
know that you've probably covered it on Itiski TV.
Yeah.
Bongani Zungu's return at Sundowns. What do you make of that?
Yeah. We were talking about how many midfielders they have. They have Sipombo, Tebuko Mukwena, they have Mkhulise Mabue, they have Hashim Domingo. Jesus, they have so many midfielders. They have Andile Jalin, Rivaldo Kutsia, and now Bongani Zungu. That team is serious, man. It's like, but still I'm bored. Like, the same team is going to win all the time. You know, that's what's boring. That's why I don't want to talk football anymore. It's like, they get all the best players and they have the money.
They
you
do.
know?
They
And they
do.
do pay. It's not like Chiefs and Pirates are poor, but they can fight more. And the spectacular way that they announced it as well, on that match that they won 4-0 as well. So it's like, whatever, man. This league just writes. It's a movie that writes itself. It's the same soapy.
So we are slowly turning it into a farms league.
It is a farmers league.
Yeah.
Kayivale ngomthandazo sasinhlanhla.
Asifalina mehlo. Oh well, thank you so much for watching. Keep subscribing, keep liking, and commenting on the content, please. And yeah, we'll see you again, guys, in the next 7 days. Remember to never, ever, ever touch anything with half your heart. That's it from us.
Nkululeko on Cultr.